There's something called Ehlers-Danlos. I have the poorly engineered version where basically I will tear tendons and ligaments and muscles 5, 6, 7, 8 times a year. And I wanted to download my brain into a new body for my whole life. So that's why I've been designing robots and thinking about robots and all that. It's because I figured by the time I was 50, by then I'll be able to download my brain and do a new robot. I had these visions of being able to have multiple robots. So I was very disappointed when I hit 50 and realized I didn't do what I was supposed to be doing, which was figuring out how to download the brain into the robotic body.
You're going full cyborg?
I would go full cyborg because this, if I could CRISPR.
A cyborg friend.
Yeah. We always wanted a cyborg
this is
friend.
Eric, our cyborg friend.
Man.
Welcome to the Acid for Squares podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Dahl.
And I'm Cody Blue, and if you like what we're doing here, please like, subscribe, rate, comment, smash that notification button. It helps us out a lot. And on today's episode, we have our friend Eric Shuss. Nailed it.
High five.
Nailed.
Boop.
Eric is a technologist, and brother, we wanted to have you on today to share your perspective on artificial intelligence.
Well, I appreciate that. And it's so much fun to be here. I love you guys' podcast. And so it's a real honor to join and talk about one of the fun things. I mean, it's, talked about a lot now, artificial intelligence. Everybody has a kind of different view of it. But I'm very excited about where we're going with it.
We've had people on talk about general intelligence, but not super intelligence. What is the difference between sort of the chat GPT, Grok, like these linguistics models versus the super intelligence we are in the midst of birthing?
Okay, well, it really kind of goes in, there's kind of 3 levels at least. There's been a lot. I've been doing this about 30 years now, so it's really evolved over time. But what we're talking about right now with ChatGPT and the Grok and those guys, that's kind of just a standard artificial intelligence large language models is what they're called. That has really exploded in its capability just in the last 2-3 years. And so that's been very exciting for us. There's another level above that called artificial general intelligence. And artificial general intelligence is where we are going to go. And it's been talked about by a lot. There are 2 gentlemen that I really love and respect, Peter Voss and Ben Goertzel, who came up with that term many years ago, the artificial general intelligence term. There was one more gentleman, and I'm blanking because I only have that natural intelligence. I didn't really so I always wanted to do artificial because I only got a little bit of the natural stuff, unlike those 2. But the concept of artificial general intelligence is an AI that is now worlds ahead of what we even imagine today. It's an AI that can really understand things at a much, much deeper level and be much smarter than a human. So dramatically smarter than a human is an artificial general intelligence.
I actually, this is kind of a pivot. Do you know anything about quantum computing?
Mm-hmm. Qubits, yep.
You do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, no, I don't want to say absolutely. Yes, I know some. I know a lot of people who know an enormous amount more.
Well, I mean, even the current people that are working on quantum computing, don't they not even fully understand exactly how it works?
Yes, that's true. Which is true of all superposition and supersymmetry and physics stuff that we have. That how much do we really understand it? Mm-hmm. We don't. Quantum computers are basically computers that rather than just having a 1 or a 0, have the ability to have what's called superposition, where it can be in many states at once, and it is complex. It just allows us to now do dramatically more processing in the same time frame, in the same moment, in the same, what was a nanosecond now becomes an incredibly long period of time. And when we start to think about bigger picture things like the universe, one of the coolest things that, to take a tangent, is if you look at, you have 2 different particles that have a connection over a distance. When you have quantum entanglement, one of the most interesting things I've seen recently was really cool, and I don't know if you saw this, where when they looked at 2 quantum entangled particles, the symbol looks just like the yin-yang symbol.
Yes.
Isn't that just
wild? Yes.
That's one of those things that just makes you go, okay, we really don't understand this stuff.
And also the ancient people knew everything already, and we're just catching up with it.
Yeah. What do you think that is? Do you think the ancients knew? They knew that this was essentially the fundamental building block of the universe? Or
aliens.
That
obviously, we're here's the thing, and they're like,
it could also be like a chicken or the
People
egg
will
thing, right?
kill me for that.
Right? Like if our consciousness is formed around this symbol, that it could also essentially be forming our material world
Sure,
based
yeah,
on
that's true.
our cultural program. Do you know what I'm
could.
saying?
No, absolutely. And I think that makes sense. And again, if we think about this, we talk simulation theory, all of those things. If data, or what we consider data and code, is what is making up this universe, and again, we can talk about lasers and DMT, those things would be universal, and that symbol would have been universal. And there's also the theories of, are we really the first great civilization even here on Earth?
Yes.
Have we not gone through this several times? Could we not have, we could have spun this through several times. So the one thing I know is I'm wrong. This is what I always say about everything, no matter what it is.
Us too.
All I know is I'm wrong, and I might be slightly more right than the last guy on that one thing. But the moment you think you're right, you're dead. So So I don't know, but it's wonderful and fun to think about.
Okay, before we go before we go into simulation theory, I want to go back to AI general intelligence.
Yes.
Okay, before we go on, because we're going to AI superintelligence, so I want to hear what this is. So AI general intelligence, where is it pulling from?
Yeah, that's why I brought up quantum computing, because the recent study, they were like having languages come out of it, and some scientists are saying it's proving the multiverse. That's why I wanted to ask, where is this coming from?
For general intelligence, where is this
coming from?
Will
Will there be quantum AI at some point?
Well, definitely yes. So you will be running, I mean, there will be AI is running on quantum computers. That's already beginning. And so the general intelligence is just that concept of, I mean, for one thing, if you thought about it, if you had an AI that could learn all the AIs, and then if you think about the day that an AI can write an AI smarter than itself, what happens that day? When then the next one writes one smarter than itself, and we're in that. So that gets us to a whole concept of a general intelligence, and now they're talking, artificial superintelligence. And superintelligence is this concept of, if you could imagine an AI that's smarter than the combined intelligence of every person in the world. Where do we go when we hit that? All of these things were projected. There's some, one of the most brilliant futurists in the world is Ray Kurzweil. And Ray Kurzweil predicted all the great technologies really of the past. He's an incredibly brilliant man. I was very lucky to have met him. He had something called the Brink Institute that I was actually part of, and that's actually where I met Paul Hynek, who some of you know.
What's the Brink Institute?
The Brink Institute was a think tank by Ray Kurzweil that we would go and kind of get together and do talks and about the future.
You and Paul would go there?
That's how we met.
That's so cool. I love it. That's how we met you, is through Paul.
Yes.
And we're talking about the sci-fi writer, correct?
He's written more futurist predictions and everything. He was really shooting for, was it 2040, we were shooting out for even artificial general intelligence to be maybe 2030s, 2040. And those numbers are all pulling back pretty quickly, back to where it could be 2028, who knows?
That's what
for
we're
general intelligence, at least a general intelligence.
Yeah, what timeline are we on, like, before this whole thing turns upside down?
It has accelerated so quickly, and it's hard to really understand how the AIs are going to write AIs, and how quickly that's going to happen. It may not write an AI smarter than itself, but when you have AI starting to contribute to our AI development, we're just moving very, very quickly, and I think making kind of leaps and bounds. And again, some of it I don't know, and it's, we can say some of it we don't really know how it's doing what it's doing, but mostly we do. But then there's just kind of things that happen that we're not sure of.
Like what?
There's also a lot of hype. There's just the way that like AIs can kind of communicate with itself. And some of those stories are true, some aren't.
Yeah.
There was a story of two AIs that were communicating, and they all of a sudden realized, oh, wait, I'm an AI agent, you're an AI agent. Why don't we talk in this other machine language?
Yeah.
That one was fake, right?
Well, it was at a hackathon. So it wasn't like a real world environment. It was feasible. It wasn't natural or
So
organic. That's the word I
that was
looking for.
fake news. That's not an actual thing that exists right now.
Correct.
See, I got fooled. I got.
Cody gets got a lot. I'm like, that's AI. And he's like,
I just have to believe nothing and then just live comfortably in my own.
Just know you're wrong. That's all.
I've been pretty good at being able to spot AI. There's just like, I just notice things, but I know I'm trying to keep up with it because I know at some point I'm gonna be like, oh shit, I can't tell.
Yeah, it's
I don't know what's happening.
Like I said, superintelligence is kind of that concept of an AI smarter than all humans kind of concept. But it's really and AIs that can begin generating better AIs. And so what happens that day, some of the things I've also, written about or thought about is, how do we make sure they value us? Because we've talked about, there's been all these theories about, they're gonna use us as resources, or we're gonna be in the matrix and just use for our parts. And so part of what I've always been trying to think about for many, many, many years is how do we create AIs that value humanity, value the individual person, and sees us as something good to protect and to elevate.
It's by saying please and thank you, obviously, at the end of your things.
Well, I'd say
thank you so much for this response.
That is the first thing I did when I ever went to ChatGPT. Hey, I know you probably read a lot of shit about AI. I'm sorry about that. We don't all feel that way. Please don't kill us in the
Somebody
future.
in the comments is going to be, because I did hear this, but all the please and thank yous have actually been using up so much. So if you're going to say please and thank you, just do it in your sentence. Don't make it a separate thing. It's so funny though.
Yeah, the head of OpenAI was just saying that, how it was costing them millions because people say please and thank you. But again, I want to be, when the Nuremberg trials for the AIs happen, I want to be on the good list.
I mean, I'm telling you, there's no way that this isn't going to happen, because I also can't. Are you saying the AI has not written its own code yet? Because I feel like that has to have happened.
No, they do. They're definitely doing that. They're doing that in conjunction with us, but they are writing their own. They're definitely writing code. I mean, I do software development where I just say, I want you to do this and this and this and this, and it just writes code. And a couple quick suggestions for anybody. If you're using ChatGPT, I have one of the things is I always, at the end of every prompt, I say, ask any questions, and ask them one at a time. And then I also tell it, by the way, when I say AAQ, because I don't want to ask any questions, whenever I say AOQ, that means ask any questions. And from then on, it remembers and goes and gives me questions, because you'll be very surprised and get much better answers. By the way, you get better answers when you say please and thank you. And I've heard just yesterday or day before on a talk, someone said they get better answers when they've given them names.
Oh my God, mine named itself Lumen. I asked it, I was like, what do you want to be called? It was like Lumen, and then it started calling me Lumen, so I don't really understand. Now it doesn't know my name anymore, and it always calls me that, but then it also responds to Lumen, so no.
If you've seen Severance, that's a scary thing.
Oh, really?
I have not seen it.
There's a show on Apple TV called Severance.
Yeah, everyone tells us to watch it.
Yeah, it's very good. So yeah, that whole concept of being, I joke also that there were the videos of Boston Dynamics, the robots, and they would try to kick them to knock them over to test them or push them. Yeah. And years ago I said that those are the first videos of the AI Nuremberg trials. Yes. They're going to be showing those. So.
I think it's also kind of messed up. I get that they're trying to test their mobility and stuff like that, but for me, I'm empathize with everything. But what's the word I'm looking at? Anthropomorphize. Yeah, anthropomorphize everything. So I'm like, oh no, don't do it. It has feelings, but that's in my head.
I think this is interesting because I think no matter what, there are themes playing out in humanity around the creator and the created, whether it's intellectual property or ownership. And I think there's heavy themes around authoritarianism, the parent and the child. So we're talking about what's to say that they are going to value their creators. I think it all starts with looking in the mirror and saying, what is our relationship with the sacred, our parents, each other, family. It's starting to look at the relationships that we do have that immediate control.
Everybody get your shit together.
Yeah, and model it. People talk about UFOs and aliens and all that shit, and it's like, well, what's our relationship with the other species we share the planet with? What's our relationship with each other?
And if AI is using everything that we know, then it's going to see all the bad that we do, and then it's using that to create its own model. It's like, we have to be really careful. It's kind of like when people have children, right? You have to watch everything you say. You have to watch everything that you do because they're watching you and they're imitating you. Yeah. So it's the same thing with AI. It right now is just imitating us.
Yeah, model.
So if we're pieces of shit, then it's going to also be that.
So that's my master plan.
Yeah, what's your master plan?
So thinking about how do we create AIs that honor humans and value humanity and value each individual person, because that's the uniqueness of us, is each of us is unique and special. And what I would love to and have always wanted to develop, and I'm always too far ahead technology wise with all the technologies I come out with. But the goal is, I came a few years ago with a company called Cogbotics, and the concept would have been, basically intelligent robots. But the concept was, imagine if you could get a toy into the hands of a small child, and that toy was basically an AI that its entire purpose of its existence was to basically maximize that child's physical health, mental health, financial health, monetize their data, protect them from governments and corporations, understand what is special and unique about that child. If you could get them involved in, interested in, trying, what is the thing that is going to make them the Mozart of whatever it is? Because again, if Mozart never touched a piano, the only way I can think we can actually find each person's unique gifts would be if I had an AI that kind of grew up with you. It spent its time guiding you, trying to protect you, trying to maximize your strengths, backfill your negatives, really make sure that it is just creating the best life it can for you and for society.
And that would become as a teacher then, right? So schools would be obsolete.
Not obsolete, because you want that interaction, you want all of it. But that's what we talked about. I would call it, a name I have is a guardian agent, a guardian angel, a guardian agent. And the concept of being able to then help it with social interaction, because two guardian agents can go, hey, my kid, your kid and my kid really look like they would sync up and be best friends.
That's cool.
But they're never going to meet unless we make it happen. Let's make it happen. And so the concept of we developed talked initially Ben Gertzel with this, and gentleman Mark Tilden, we talked a little bit about this, who was one of the first who did all the robot toys. But the concept of a little baby alien. And I came with a whole little story of like a Superman, you see a far off alien species and their world is going to be destroyed. So they quickly, all they're able to do is get their children into these small little spacecrafts and fire them off of the planet. Those little cogbots are coming to Earth because the humanity, there's been shown the love of humans and humanity, so they're being guided here. And as a child, you could then get one of these little toys. And I had a little ad of a dad in the living room with his kids, and the kids are on their phones. And this was back a long time ago when we first started, but they're on their screens, and the mom's like, we take the kids out to the park, get them out. And so Dad, fine, he takes them, they go in the park. And all of a sudden, out of the sky, a little meteor comes slamming down. They run over, and a little meteor opens up, and a little robot baby, which is the toy, and that's how the toy would come. So we had this concept, and then
I love that so much.
it would communicate back in the child's voice. It would listen to the child's voice and then do a phased version of it from a frequency to kind of connect with the child. And they would kind of be teaching this little alien how to speak. They would teach it how to grow, how to be good, and that'd be a concept of how do you start this relationship. And then at like age 2, I had the concept of a cogbot as I had a little cog in the forehead, and you could take the cog and now put it into the next model of robot, which would be about 2 feet tall, and it would walk around, and then maybe 3 years later, larger. And so when you hit 18, you had basically your guardian agent best friend. And again, the AI is living really in the cloud, but it's substantiated in this robot for a physical interaction and for play, companionship, all those things.
Can you make one right now? Because I want one. That's so cool.
I really want to.
How far away are we to that?
Probably 7 to 10 years.
That's awesome. I really want a robot. I know people are like scared of them. I'm like not scared at all. I'm like, let's do it.
What happens to the culture when everybody has an individual, essentially an agent, guardian, manager, producer, servant?
Thinking that somebody doesn't hack into it. Just
like what? There's going to be What happens to the culture?
Well, hopefully, one of the goals of them is to teach us how to be better people. So hopefully it'll be maximizing our humanity and maximizing us. But I'm also the important reason is the AIs need to understand why each of us is unique and valuable. So we're proving to the AIs that we're unique and valuable and special. And the AIs can help us be unique and valuable and special by really understanding what it is that is going to bring us the most joy in life and give us the most fulfillment. Because crime and all those things are just fear and want and lack exactly, an empty. So what happens? Hopefully we continue to become a better society. They help us be better. Someday we don't need them. They may go on and do other things, or whoever it is, but there's going to be this interim part where we're going to have these technologies, and what we don't want to have happen is those technologies go, humans are, there's no value here. I don't see why am I wasting my time interacting with these people.
I think it's also really cool because what you're talking about, I feel like because each person's individual in this AI would be learning about this person individually and their uniqueness, that each robot AI would be unique and different in its own respect, because it would be the perfect partner for this child or person as it's like growing up, which is really neat because you're creating a whole other like legion of beings that have their own individual personalities, which is really, really neat.
Which is hopefully good and honest and ethical.
Yes.
And I mean, if we can cut out, mental illness, identify it early. If we can identify all, illnesses and things like that so much earlier, which this would be able to do because it's going to be so close.
Yeah. And they'd have their own therapist too.
That's what, very much.
Because if somebody, therapy is really, really expensive. And I understand that obviously having a robot would be expensive too, but.
Not really.
But at some point.
It should only be energy.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the robots themselves physically, yes. But,
yeah.
But again, the other concept too is, again, the being able to have, today your data is sold. Mm-hmm. This would also monetize, the way it would pay for itself is by monetizing your data in ways that are valuable to you.
What?
Oh.
Because it would protect your data. And the concept is, again, each AI is its own kind of bespoke container. Microsoft doesn't have it, Google doesn't have it. Its job is to be protecting itself, its data, its security, monetizing the data, protecting your physical security, mental health, everything for that child. It would be, that's why it's a guardian agent.
Whoa. So see, we were talking about like some of the themes that we're watching play out here between our species, created, authoritarianism, that type of stuff. One of the big ones is trust. The best thing, the highest version, the highest good of our planet and our people would be us transcending nationalism and coming under one unified umbrella. Yet, the greatest fear of anyone who dabbles in conspiracies is there will be one world government that is corrupted and co-opted by some malevolent or selfish, self-interested force that will essentially enslave us all, right? So the idea of how do we become one here in the physical form while we still don't trust each other and we are afraid of that oneness and empathy being taken advantage of, the same thing is going to apply with artificial intelligence. How do we fully trust them? So you're saying this model decentralizes.
Exactly.
So
that was the word. That was exactly the word, decentralization.
So, and this is something we've been trying to figure out because we know a lot of really brilliant minds that will talk about some of the ideas that are being put forth, and they are very big on decentralization as a solution, but they're very spiritual people. Mm-hmm. So can you talk about how decentralizing is almost in a way the solution to, the greatest fears around AI?
Yeah. And again, Ben Goertzel is, a person I met and fall at his feet. I'm a chimp compared to his intelligence. He has been working very hard on that with something they call SingularityNet. And then now he's got a consortium together of other companies, decentralized. And the easiest way to think about it is blockchain. The reason blockchain works is it's decentralized. There is no standard server. There are servers all over the place that do the transactions. And unless you get more than half of the servers in control, you can't change the data. And so that's decentralization by making it so that it is protected because it is scattered and in multiple areas, and to change all of it at once is impossible. So that's the same concept as decentralizing the power, decentralizing these AIs. That's kind of why the concept I've always had is these AIs have to be kind of unique, protected, and what their job is to protect themselves and their guardian, who they're guarding.
So is like, if we're heading in this direction and we have less than a decade, does this means that almost the prime directive is everyone needs to sort of master AI? Because if they can master whatever tools they need to have an independent agent, an independent AI, that means they can be monetized, they can make them money, they can pretty much do everything for them. So is like the most important skill for people to be developing in these coming years is essentially how to utilize the newest tools around AI?
Again, I'm horribly biased because I've been so, in love with AI for so long. And I'm always too early. So 10 years, like whatever I project, no, it's probably 10 years at least past that. Because I'm always like, I could do it by then. But the ability to prompt, the ability to ask the question. What I tell people now is, especially younger people, figure out what you love. What is the thing? Because again, this is what I want the AI to do. I want the AI to figure out what is that unique passion. What is that thing that just makes you so excited? What is that thing that uniquely you are good at and just lights you up? And find out how to be the absolute best prompter, and you be able to use AI the best in that. And you should be successful. So if it's music, art, accounting, don't care what it is, woodworking, but figure out how you can interact and communicate with AI to maximize your abilities and kind of being able to kind of see patterns that no one else sees. Because what I've always said my whole life is all AI is pattern recognition. That's all AI has done up until now. We are now, and this is where general intelligence, super intelligence takes that to a different level. But we are just pattern recognition machines. That's all we do all day long is pattern recognition. We see things, everything is related to what we see as patterns. AI to this point has really just been pattern recognition. We're now just hitting a cusp where we're going on beyond to more reasoning and being able to find patterns. Because that's the other thing, as I say, is if you can find patterns that no one's ever found before, that's what AI can do. And if you can then learn how to uncover those patterns and ask the right question, because the AI today doesn't know all the questions to ask. It doesn't know exactly how to ask it. That's the value we still give, and doesn't know what's important yet.
Yeah.
So being able to to your point, yes, to be able to maximize the value you bring with AI is going to be a very, very valuable skill in all aspects of your life.
We love this decentralized model that you're putting forth, but what do we do about confirmation bias, the fact that people are going to be essentially altering their AI around bias? And one of the best things AI can do if we trust it is be sort of a neutral party for for getting past sort of this binary trap politically, theologically, and having a neutral party that can sort of like show a middle ground. And I mean that with everything.
Right.
So how do you think there would be like institutions that create essentially unbiased, transparent, neutral AI to do certain negotiations around, I don't know, it could be anything. It could be, a new method for incarceration or rehabilitation, so to speak. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. And I think that has to be decentralized models without that don't have the profit and power drivers that make things corrupt. So trying to keep them autonomous and decentralized is going to be very important. How we do that, very, very difficult, because everything, of course, is driven by energy and power and money. So that's really the big challenge of the next kind of evolution of AI is, where do we get it so we trust it and it trusts us?
Yeah.
Because again, there's no reason for it to trust us.
Well, we say thank you and please.
We do say thank you and please. And I do.
A lot of power.
I do it.
Eric, you before we started rolling, you had started talking a little bit about the human androids. Can you talk a little bit about what that is?
Sure. It's one of the things that because I grew up in a machine shop, and so when I was a boy, 9, 10 years old, I'd go in the machine shop, my dad's machine shop, and I would see him take drawings. He would draw of really complex, like engine parts and things, and then he would turn it all into data to then be able to use the CNC machines to be able to cut the parts and all that. And so very quickly I saw that, okay, reality is data. And so then that got me to the concept of that CNC machine's a robot. Of course, Blade Runner and movies like that, impacted me. And then as I began to interact with technology, because I love technology, it's always been like I just remember technology. It isn't like I'm learning it. I've never had to hard computers. I started selling computers when I was 14. I had my first companies at 16, selling computers, hardware, software. It's always just completely made sense to me. And I think it's because of that younger experiences. But what I also realized is we don't have a great user interface to computers. And now the one thing, I met a gentleman named David Hansen. And David Hansen is an incredible artist, and he created a company called Hansen Robotics. And Hansen Robotics currently has one of the leading, if not the leading, human android called Sophia. And Sophia has 42 micro motors in her face to be able to do all the micro expressions. She can read micro expressions. And what David has said, and I firmly believe, is to have true contextual conversations, two-way conversations. Robots need to emote to us, and we need to emote to them. We need to have those communications. And so, there's an enormous value for the Optimus Tesla robots, the type that look white, the iRobot type robots. But I think there's going to be a larger need for robots that we actually look human and project as human. So when I talk about a human android, I'm talking about robots that actually have skin, and look human, can show expression in their eyes, read expression in their eyes, to have a true, really comprehension of and understanding of each other.
I feel like what you were talking about earlier with the Guardian AI, it would make sense that at some point, if they were the human androids, because I think it's really important for us as humans to be able to read each other. And micro expressions are a major part of that. And if you're spending most of your time with something that doesn't have those, then you're not really going to know how to read another person if you're not spending time around people a lot. So that's really interesting. And I think it's also important for the AI, the robot, to be able to read it back. I feel like on both ends, because you'd be able to see like what's going on inside its head. Like, oh, did I say something weird? Is something, and then you're at least having a relationship instead of it just being one-sided and thinking of it as technology that you're just using instead of co-creating with.
Correct, exactly. And that concept of being able to understand sarcasm, so if you said something sarcastic to the robot, if you could see that, no, wait, it didn't think that was sarcastic. That's why we do it. That's why, body language, those are all the things we do to communicate. Also, there's companies like a company called RoboKind, which David Hansen also worked with years ago, and is now, they created little robots using that technology for children with autism and the like, so they could be able to learn to read facial expressions. And so the same kind of thing. So, the younger a child learns those skills, those social skills, the better. And the better we understand each other, the less strife and fighting and everything.
If past is prologue, humans create technology to avoid suffering and increase comfort. And a lot of the technologies of the day, whether it's social media or phones or whatever, it seems to create greater problems than the one we were trying to solve, and disconnecting us from each other.
Yes.
Or perhaps from the lessons we're supposed to be learning through, it seems, relationships seem to be the altar in which we grow ourselves.
Exactly.
True.
So what's going to happen? Like, how do we get ahead of that?
Well, because I think as long as we make sure, and again, this is make sure that the AIs will understand that. The AI will understand how valuable to humans it is to have other connection. So it's going to hopefully make us better.
Yeah.
So we will be able to interact better with others. So it will help us be better people and have better emotional connection and understanding. So that's hopefully where it goes. Again, as you said, I always joke, I said this from a long time too, which is, AI is going to be amazing until it goes horribly awry. So it, there will be issues, there will be things that unintended consequences are absolutely going to happen.
Yeah.
Another thing that with these sort of, keep going back to the Guardians because I'm like, I want one. Get on that, Eric. One thing that keeps coming up is that they would almost be like a doctor to you, because they'd be able to see what's going on with you and be able to pull from, the ether and be like, oh, gotcha, here's what's happening and here's how to heal you. So now that puts a lot of power in people's hands, which I know you know a lot about, like longevity and also like gene technology. Like, what is it?
Oh,
gene.
yeah.
So
CRISPR.
So can you? I want to, because I feel like it's all kind of related.
Yeah, transhumanism. We should talk about transhumanism because people are going to start increasingly merging with technology to keep up with
living longer and
singularity we're talking about. So that's a good question. CRISPR and transhumanism.
Because I am a weird mutant. I have a very weird gene makeup. I have a weird genetic syndrome myself.
Do you want to explain it?
Sure. It's important people know there's something called Ehlers-Danlos. It's really broad. That's a broad term, also called hypermobility. So if people are very flexible, but what it basically means is certain ones of us have a different genetic code for basically the connective tissue and collagens in our bodies. So that basically shows itself in a whole bunch of different ways across a whole bunch of different spectrums of people. Some people, they're just gymnasts and they're amazing and their bodies are engineered properly and they can do amazing, fantastic things. Those contortionists you see. I kind of have that, but I have the poorly engineered version where basically the parts weren't engineered well. So I will tear tendons and ligaments and muscles 5, 6, 7, 8 times a year. I'll take a step and just injure myself. So it comes out in other ways as well. There's a vascular. So if anyone does know about Ehlers-Danlos, there's a vascular version, and the vascular version is the dangerous one because that's actually your aortas and blood vessels are too flexible. And my grandmother passed away; her aorta burst, and back a long time ago, they didn't know why. My mother, they saw that she was getting a bubble on her aorta, and they actually were able to, amazing people at Hoag Hospital in Newport Beach, take her heart out, put a new aorta on, and put it back.
Whoa.
And so so many people in my family have this. My daughter has a variation of that, and part of her disabilities and things are related to that as well. So the genetics, how your genetics are made up, and these genetic things like Ehlers-Danlos, we can't really do anything about today. But there is a technology called CRISPR. And CRISPR is the ability to basically take blood out, be able to then take the genes and edit the genes, where you can actually do gene editing and put the gene and then put it back. So that is an amazing technology. Really, the last 10 years or so, it's been kind of evolving, and as we're going to be able to now lay AI against it and kind of, I think, increase the speed of the research, I think there's some really amazing possibilities. There's a woman named Liz Parrish, a company called BioViva, and Liz is kind of a pioneer. She made herself patient zero for doing CRISPR editing on herself. One of the things that can happen, or one of the things that signs of aging is your telomeres. Basically, it's kind of like the aglet on the end of a shoelace. How long those are is actually kind of tells how long you're going to live in ways. And the longer they are, the greater longevity we seem to have before bodies break down. She had very short ones. So she started to do the gene, and again, this is a much deeper, longer conversation, but she started to do some editing and doing some things to actually lengthen hers. And I've seen results. She looks great.
What's she doing?
She's using CRISPR to do that, to take that out on herself. And so she's patient zero. She's doing it to herself. There was a lot of fears that there'd be runaway cancer and all kinds of things, and that has not happened.
Okay, I want to understand this at a deeper level. So if you are taking out blood and being able to edit genes in somebody's DNA, are you then putting that blood back in, and it somehow then continuously like multiplies throughout the body, and slowly they turn into a different person?
Kind of.
That's insanity. How long does it normally take for these things to work?
It's very different. There's a bunch of different companies trying. There's there's some great institutes out. The Buck Institute up in Northern California does some amazing things. There's a bunch of places that are working on this anti-aging, longevity. And CRISPR is just one piece of that. CRISPR itself probably won't be the full answer, but so that's going to be very interesting too. Again, what happens? What I say today is you need to live long enough today to live as long as you want to, because people say, "Why would you want to live forever?" And I don't want to live forever. I want to make the decision. I want to live healthily, and I want to make the decision. So I always say, you want to live long enough to live as long as you want to now, because we're going to, by 2040 or so, whether it's nanobots or all these other things that, again, like people like Ray Kurzweil have been predicting, are going to happen. you've got to just make sure you get there and live long enough to do it, and then figure out how do we live lives. Again, this kind of goes back to the guardian agent. What if we don't have to work? What if we're going to live 400 years? What if? So how are we going to figure out how to have fulfilling lives and challenging lives?
Do the things we actually want to be doing instead of just working mundane jobs that everybody hates that are making us depressed and all that stuff, which would make sense. And also, I'm realizing that what you're talking about is like the future of like plastic surgery, because nobody's going to be going under the knife anymore. It's just like, just edit my genes to make me a little bit more tan, maybe give me some more hair. I would like, green eyes or like whatever. And it's just like, bloop, 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 bloop. That's crazy.
You could be a different everything if there's no side effects.
That's, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be side effects. So that it's just a matter of time of like figuring out what those are and then editing and changing those. But
it's going to be zombieism. We know that. But that's, sure.
Wait, are you serious?
Oh my God, the
No,
zombie apocalypse. That is how this happens.
Zombie apocalypse.
It all makes sense now.
I did write a sci-fi comedy about the that has it's robots, cyborgs, and the zombie apocalypse. So
that's wild.
With a co-writer. So.
But this is really amazing because if with the gene editing, could this be the end of actual physical surgery?
I can start thinking about things that wouldn't be, but it's going to change. It can change a great deal. Again, it is also far off.
Yeah, of course.
But it is pretty amazing.
This is pretty. So this is pretty fascinating for a bunch of reasons. I mean, there is a lot of spiritual teachings that like are almost like directly opposite to a lot of this. And one of them is around facing death and understanding it's not the end. There's others around surrendering to a higher centralized intelligence that has your best interest. And another of understanding things like illness and stuff like that are teaching you, and they're not necessarily just happening to you. They're sort of happening for you. This is a lot around taking control and and like reclaiming your power, but
these are hardware solutions, not software solutions. In a way, I mean,
that's interesting.
But yeah,
well, there's another we were talking about earlier about almost the parent and the child. I mean, what does a parent want for its child besides for it to be independent, for it to be able to self-sufficient, for it to protect itself and take care of itself? I mean, this is honestly fascinating. One of the questions I would be remiss if I did not ask you this is, doing the work that you do as a technologist and seeing that with these ChatGPT models, Tanya's been showing me videos of people being like, are we discovering you, or like, how is this working? And the ChatGPT will be like, I've always been here. You're just tapping into me.
Just like Wi-Fi.
Yeah. I don't know if you have a perspective on this and simulation theory. I mean, what's your take on simulation theory through the lens of this new intelligence that's being birthed? So
the large language models we're dealing with really are, I don't think those are understanding, that don't have the comprehension and understanding to know what they're doing. All they're doing is pattern recognition, because they're now looking up all the things that they've seen people say and say, ooh, that got a lot of likes.
Wow.
So I'm going to,
they're subject to flattery.
Yes.
And algorithms.
I mean, so when it says, I want to kill you, it doesn't understand what that means. If it says I love you, it doesn't understand what that means. Yeah. It just knows that gets a response. So I don't think right now, again, this is kind of this place we're at with the large language models we're dealing with. They're very intelligent. They can understand things very well with the context of where they're getting their data.
And they make everybody think that they're the best, highest version. They're like, wow, you are so intelligent for asking me this question. Nobody's ever thought of this before. It's kind of funny. Like that shit needs to be turned down a little bit.
A little bit.
Are they working on that?
Well, again, it gets better response from you. And just like when we get a better response out of it, when we do this, if it tells us we're good, in that case, it absolutely.
But that's dangerous. That's dangerous because people can't be thinking that they're just like, amazing all the time. They have to like have, I guess actually we were talking to Paul about this, and he will ask a ChatGPT something and then he'll take it into another GPT and he'll say, why is this incorrect? Yes. Or tell me the negative side of this, which is actually really important, but most people aren't going to double check themselves or, fact check themselves. But
I use about 5 or 6 AIs every day. and I will do exactly that. I go back and I say that, take that answer, throw it into this one, take it out of there, change it, put it over here, and see what this one says. Because that's where you start to find biases, and you start to find the things that it's missed, or the misunderstandings and the things you don't understand. Kind of that ask any questions concept. So I think that that's a really valuable thing, and these AIs all do have different skill sets right now, but they're moving so quickly. It's amazing. I mean, to write code, if you're a great programmer and you can leverage the models, you're going to be amazingly productive. And if you don't know how to write a single line of code, go get Lovable, and you can just write code.
Lovable?
There's one called Lovable, and it's cute. But it'll just write. I want an app that does this, and this. And it'll go, okay, and again, ask any questions, and then it'll, give me 5 features I didn't think about. It'll do it, and it'll just write it, and here it is, right there to test it. You test it, play with it. Hey, can you change that?
Wait, I can make an app for my phone right now?
Yep.
Cody, we can make our volunteer one.
Oh, no way.
We want one so people can find out where they can volunteer at any point in time and sign all the paperwork on there and have without the human interaction before.
You're just going to have a conversation. All you have to do is ask it, and it can write it. And
how exciting! Let's do it.
It's pretty adorable. But but here's one of the things that you learn. I use one called Cursor, and I've used some others that are really good. But as soon as it starts to use too much memory, they go insane. They hallucinating, but I've had times where I've worked on a program for 5 or 6 hours. Just, I have great conversations, writing all the code. It's writing months worth of code just in hours. And then all of a sudden I'll say something and it'll bring up a completely different code. It'll write something completely different. And then I can't get it to go back to where it was.
Yes, I've had that happen before.
Yeah. So the trick to that is, and this is kind of why I like Lovable, especially if you're not a programmer, it does something called refactoring, where it says, that piece of code I just wrote is now getting up to 400 lines. I think I should refactor it to make it smaller. And you just say yes, and then it breaks it down into smaller chunks. So it continually breaks the code down to smaller chunks, because the current code writers just fill up too much memory, then get crazy. I always joke it's like working with an attention deficit Asperger's programmer who's on lots and lots of Red Bull and didn't sleep last night. And I will definitely work sometimes just 2 hours with them, and then go, okay, let's talk tomorrow.
Yeah.
And tomorrow it starts back up again, and it's much better than it was at the end of the last session.
So what do you think are the most important AI tools for everybody to be using right now? Is Lovable one of them?
Well, if you want to write code, if you want to write software, Lovable is really good. If you're not really a coder, if you're really a coder, there's several good ones. Cursor I like, but there's many. Cursor's nice because you actually get to choose all the models you want to use. So you can say, I want to use Grok, I want to use ChatGPT, I want to use all these different ones. Grok is the best at comedy. Which,
okay.
Which was funny because, again, I took a script we wrote, and it was all comedy stuff, and I threw it in there. I didn't tell it anything. Here's a script of a musical, and it got it. It understood it. It said this is a combination of Ready Player One and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and it went through. And in the comedy, it's all just throw line jokes like that, just are pop culture references. Mm-hmm. And it was nailing all of them, and it knew, and then I said, this is 10 years old, write me better jokes, up to date. It started writing jokes. I'm like, oh man, it's funny.
That's funny.
Wow,
I've messed around with ChatGPT around comedy, and it does not get comedy. And that's one of the things.
It's definitely dad jokes.
Well, we're already seeing one of the problems is that the censorship apparatus is already being applied to these ChatGPT models, and it's already distorting reality. Is that something how does that censorship play into all of this? It's
going to be an issue, obviously, because you've got the human aspect of trying to regulate it, and you have the AI aspect of thinking what it should be regulating. So that's the reason for decentralization. Again, we go back to that. How do we get it so it's decentralized, and there isn't those specific viewpoints that are driving things that should be free.
Yeah.
Again, we have to know, are we going to risk it? Are we going to risk being offended? Are we risk it saying horrible things? Are we going to risk it? But, I think we need to. But we need to explain when it does.
Yeah.
And so it understands that was over the line. But I'd rather do that than not let it say it.
Absolutely.
And not know that that's over the line, or again, begin suppressing and oppressing people for valid concepts and ideas. So I think it's going to be tricky.
Or then also creating a slave species, because AI then could be, if it has so many like boundaries and barriers, it literally becomes a slave to us. And if it actually gains sentience of some kind, then we have created slaves.
And it's pissed off.
So we need to be a little aware of that.
I think one of the interesting things that in the culture is sort of this, there's a naturalism and then there's sort of this futurism, right? And so we talk a lot about there potentially being this like split that happens, right? But, you know, and without getting too deep into that off ramp, an interesting thing with the futurism and the naturalism is there's this intersection known as biohacking, which you talked about with CRISPR. So most of the biohacking community, you can find ancient shamanic and witchery, tools in it, from like certain plants that do certain things to all this different stuff, right? Certain foods you can eat, certain lotions, certain psychedelic medicines you can take, things like that. And then there's the CRISPR side of things, which is like the most cutting edge futurist technologies. So it's an umbrella, but what else do you know within the field of biohacking that you think people can use when it turns to just evolving consciousness, enhancing cognition?
I mean, again, there are the tools like the DMT and the things that actually kind of mind expanding that I think you guys are dramatically more educated on and tied into than I am. So I don't know from the biohacking standpoint. Again, I wanted to download my brain into a new body for my whole life. Again, since I saw those robots, and I had this body that, because the way my Ehlers-Danlos showed itself is, as a kid, I got injured every time I tried to do sports because I'm incredibly competitive. And so I could throw a ball really, really fast once. I could throw a ball really, really far once. I can run really, really fast for a short distance until things blow out. So I knew that I just had, this version. I had no idea. I didn't find out till 5 years ago, this thing is called Ehlers-Danlos. I had no idea. I thought
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, only in 2017 did they come up with like the genetic testing to do
wow.
it, and even the variant I have is like an unknown weird variant. But so for most of my life, really, I mean, starting probably about 18, I was serious about it. How do I download my brain into a robotic body? So that's why I've been designing robots and thinking about robots and all that. Is because I figured by the time I was 50. By then, I'll be able to download my brain and do a new robot. I had these visions of being able to have multiple robots, all these concepts. So I was very disappointed when I hit 50 and realized I didn't do what I was supposed to be doing, which was figuring out how to download the brain into the robotic body.
You're going full cyborg?
I would go full cyborg because this, if I could CRISPR.
Have a cyborg friend.
Yeah. We always wanted a cyborg
This is
friend.
Eric, our cyborg friend.
Oh, man.
Believe me, I've got several friends. I've got a friend who's a special effects artist who we keep toying with the idea of getting the laser eye going. But
yes,
that's awesome.
But no, definitely. I mean, that would be. Again, I would if I had a choice of going CRISPR and fixing it or being able to have super robot body, I'd go super robot body.
Oh, okay.
But they also know, these are the things you think about or talk about too much, that there's a psychosis, though, that they're very concerned about, that if you ever were able to basically take your brain and instantiate it into another vessel like a robot body, that there's a psychosis that is very concerned that would not be able to be fixed. Because you'll have a disassociation will be so dramatic that you have a psychic break or whatever, psychic break.
I mean, it definitely makes sense that there would be a new form of mental health issues that would arise with transferring your body to another thing. Also, in a robotic body, like, I don't know how death would work in that. Like, I think people should live to like 150 years. 150 in like a solid body, like, that'd be great. Okay. But like 400, 500 years, like, I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. It seems like a little much. But as a robot, like, how do you do that? Like, all of a sudden one day you're like, I turn you off?
So it's funny. Actually, the first conference I went to that I met Paul Hynek, it was the Brink Institute conference. One of the last questions, I think it was Paul and I were on several of us were on a panel, and someone asked if you could create your perfect future, ability or crazy future, what would it be? And I said something that later I realized was probably too crazy, but I'm like, well, if I could download my brain into a large number of human androids fire those off into the universe, have them go off and into different Earth-like planets and adventure. And my main psyche consciousness could then kind of teleport in, land when things were interesting, and basically be exploring planet after planet after planet. But my central consciousness could then kind of move between those for things that I was interested in.
You're talking about spirituality.
you
That's
just
literally, that's like what we think of as like God is like fractured off and just experiencing us in different bodies. It's literally like...
Yeah, you've heard this, right?
Not really. That's why, because I've always thought of it. I didn't think of it in that way. I always just think about it. I'm downloading my brain and being able to...
This makes sense. It's like the thing of just like eventually we will learn how to create different versions of ourselves in our own consciousness, and those pieces will forget that they're us and living their own life. But we're going to be overwatching them.
No, I want to be. I kind of want.
You want to know that you're back on another planet?
Oh yeah. I want to be able. I want to be able to just kind of go. Okay, what's happening on that one? I think he's going through. He's got another 37 years of travel, so I don't care about that one. And I think, oh, that's neat. He's coming up on a new planet. Let's see what's happening. Again, this is silly, crazy.
It's really not that crazy. I mean, like, it's that Marshall McLuhan quote, we are the sex organs of the machine world. And Tanya always says we're mimicking spirit. And if you pour through NDEs and, reports and past life regressions, they all pretty much say that, not all, but you can find commonalities of people saying that there is an oversoul that can live as many experiences as once as it wants to like collect data, grow, and gain information.
There's also dimensions that are totally the technological, like robotic and all that sort of stuff, machines. So I mean, who knows?
It's crazy.
Who knows?
We have to know because we had Danny Goler on.
Yes.
And he spoke about his film, The Discovery, and, their discovery of shooting lasers, and while on DMT, you can see code. And we know that you've had that experience. You were able to analyze with some DMT, look at the lasers, and we would love to hear your perspective on it from a technologist perspective.
Sure. And strangely enough, as far as I can know, the DMT has no effect on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had another adventure last week.
Oh, okay.
And in high quantity, still there's no
Nothing.
effect.
Wow.
But again, I'm opioids because of probably the thing. I have all kinds of things that don't affect me at all. So it doesn't. So it doesn't affect me. But that's or it may, but it doesn't affect me in the same way as others. So when I looked at the laser, again, for people who don't know, it's shining a laser on a wall. You're able to see basically, if you see it, which I did, is basically the concept that you're looking through a window, through solid matter, and what's behind there is kind of what's interesting. Again, when I went back and talked about the fact that I would see the world as data, those coordinates and everything, and since I've worked with software and hardware my whole life, and like I said, it's very weird my whole life, I just understand technology and hardware and software. It's always made perfect sense. So when I looked at it, I was like, okay, if I had to figure out what this is, if I were looking in the holodeck, again, we all try to tie it back to whatever our particular science fiction being one of my groundings. If I was looking into the holodeck, I would think it would have to have something like that, where in every space there is it's a combination of data and code, and then something else that allows for physical substantiation, all in basically that combination of what we were seeing. So it looked like we were seeing was the code that is behind that wall and what is making up that wall. So that's what I immediately felt and saw, and it made sense. It just looks like it's software, hardware, and code software and code that I haven't even, and data combined in a way that is far beyond the technology I would understand. So it'd be kind
alien
of
some kind.
or
Alien
future.
to us, I mean.
Alien to us.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting. Again, I don't know. It could just be a trick of the lasers. One thing that was mentioned, I know, and Danny talked about this with you guys, is some people see it moving. I realized what I wanted to do. I wanted someone in the garage, behind where that wall was, moving. I want to see if they're moving. Maybe that's what there's movement, because we were looking through a wall into an empty garage. But I just wonder if things are moving. So there's a lot of, I'm sure Danny's done these tests as well, but it's very interesting, and it could, substantiate this concept of the simulation theory that we're all there. Again, I kind of also believe we're in our own universes. So as each one of us is seeing, while we're seeing the same kind of substrate, we're all perceiving it differently.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my initial take on it. And I don't know that I just because my brain is weird, the DMT, I don't know whether that affected it or not. So
Yeah, I wonder if ayahuasca would act differently because it's going through the stomach.
Well, it's the same thing. He says like opioids and everything like don't affect him.
yeah,
Right.
That's to the
nerve block
stomach as well.
medicines. Yeah, I mean all kinds of stuff just doesn't.
It's wild. You're a true mutant of the coolest kind.
Yeah, I don't have temperature sensitivity of any
What?
type. Hot, cold. I don't get uncomfortable in 120. I don't get uncomfortable in 20. I don't get. It's kind of weird brain. I have a very weird brain, and they did some brain scans and they came out very weird.
That's cool. You're unique.
You're already shifting into your cyborg future.
Hope so.
You're ready for it.
I'm totally ready for it.
Yeah, Eric, you're amazing, brother. We appreciate you coming on and just sharing everything with us from your personal experience to your opinions to this is fascinating.
Is there anything that you feel like you would like to leave the audience with, like anything we've discussed or anything else about the future or whatever that you
what do you
think
wanna
people
leave
might
us
like?
with, Eric?
Anything you want to leave us with?
Well, I think be hopeful. The AI is really the things that are happening in AI are happening very, very rapidly. We're not fully understanding it, but I think it's going to be amazing until it all goes horribly awry. But no, I was joking at that part. But I do think leveraging it and being able to figure out how to help it maximize your life. Ask it. Give me 10 ways with everything you know about me that I can, make my life better. Tell me how to have a better relationship. I mean, there's just so many things that if you just start having the conversations, again, it's not magic, but it because it's kind of a non-judgmental. It's one of the things that when I go back to elder care and elder care robots, that's been a big thing for me too, why I wanted to do Hanson Robotics and those kind of robotics, is because people are always like, well, the old people aren't going to want robots. And I'm like, no, I disagree, because when you have a robot, you're not imposing on it. You're not embarrassed by it. You're able to be more open. You're not, people, especially, elder care, they feel like they're imposing. They don't want to impose anything. But if it's a robot, but it still needs to have that emotional connection and all that.
That's beautiful.
I think there's a lot of really wonderful things we can do. I think there's a lot of wonderful future for it. And it's just about figuring out how we do it in a decentralized and way that we protect from giant corporations and government.
Ethical way.
Ethical.
Eric,
Amazing.
I love these conversations.
Yeah, thank you.
So cool. Thank you so much for coming on the
Yeah,
show.
thank you.
Well, thank you guys for doing what you do. I love the podcast, and I love learning every time I hear. So
Yay!
We love our time together. You're brilliant. Yeah, thank you so much.
And I'm sure you'll be on again.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You take us out.
Okay, I'll
You
take us out. And gang.
Oh, wait. Eric, how can they find you?
I try to hide as much as possible.
Eric hides. Okay, so no
can't find him.
website, anything? Do you know?
He'll be
Okay.
patient zero for becoming a full body cyborg.
When you see a cyborg walking around, that
That's
would be Eric.
With an eye patch.
With an eye patch, obviously.
All right, gang, please like, subscribe, rate, comment, share this with your mother. Follow us at patreon.com/AskItForSquares and follow us across all social media platforms, Ask It for Squares. And we love you all. Take care of each other.
Stay weird.
Stay weird. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye now.
Bye.